Good evening. Welcome to the school committee meeting of Monday, June 25th, 2012. Tonight, our agenda, we're going to go into some recommended actions, deal with some contracts. We have a little bit of discussion, and then we'll get into some future business and other matters. To start out tonight's meeting is we have no presentations or awards, scheduled delegations being none. Recommended actions. The routine matters, asking for the approval of minutes from June 11th. I decided that it's on your agenda, but we just did receive these tonight, and also as well as the redone ones from May 21st. And I know I would like another 2 weeks to look at these just to make sure, when you get them right before the meeting. And I thank Mrs. Ravelli for her hard work with that, and to get the other ones from Alan from his office up to us. But I think take a few minutes to look at, instead of taking a few minutes to look at them, to really study them, to make sure the intent of the minutes are reflected from the meeting. So we'll pass on those. Unfinished business. Anything there? Nothing there. Okay, new business. We have our FREC bids, and I think Mr. Superintendent will turn over to Mr. Mathau. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. The French River Education Collaborative is where we procure a lot of our day-to-day school items from. They do the bids for our school supplies, our computer supplies, and our food service supplies. We've been participating with them, I think, for the past 20-plus years or so, and have had, a very collaborative relationship with them through the process. I have copies of the bids here if anybody wants to take a look at them. What has happened in the past is school committee will generally approve the bids. They're fully vetted through the French River Education Collaborative, all of the business managers that look at these things, as well as obviously myself and our staff here. We are happy with where we are for next year. There were not all that many dramatic increases, and we ask for your approval for these bids.
Okay. I entertain a motion to approve those bids.
Second it.
Moved. Let's see, we moved it, then a second.
Move the motion.
Move it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, do I have discussion on it? Any discussion? That folder was on the table. I did have a chance to look at that down there this week. And it is really a considerable savings when you look at your different supplies, instead of going through the schools itself, like going out to like a WB Mason and buying their own things. Now they're going through the collaborative. And I understand they also deliver, don't they?
Yes, that's correct. They handle all of the delivery aspects. For example, our paper bid, the way they bid it is it's a one-stop drop, and we're able to actually realize savings by having all of the paper delivered here to the high school, and we deliver them to the individual offices as opposed to having the companies deliver them individually to the schools.
Very good, thank you. Anything else? A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Being none, motion passes 5 in the affirmative. Next item is our school committee calendar. Looking at the calendar for 2012, 2013. Everyone should have received a copy in their packet, I believe. Okay. And anyone reviewed it? Any questions, concerns? We will be off July 30th, being the last week in July, first week in August, primarily to vacation time. And then also you'll notice in October, where we're meeting on the 15th, and then the 29th falls into Columbus Day, and the same will happen down in May. So we are scheduled primarily for the 2nd and 4th, with a couple little. Excuse me. The 15th is Columbus Day. I'm sorry, the 29th. Okay, thank you.
My fault.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for that clarification. So the 15th is Columbus Day. We will not be meeting, but it'll be the 29th. Okay. Anything else? I entertain a motion to accept this calendar as printed.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Being none, motion passes 5 in the affirmative. Okay. Approval of new positions. I'll turn this item over to Mr. Hildenberger. In our packets, we received some information and what he's trying to do going into next year. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Coonan. As you see before you, I included the positions that are going to be restored and/or new next year. I would like the committee's thoughts and ultimate approval on these. We have cut positions over the last 3 years, and I make a mention at the bottom, due to the town meeting and your support of the budget, we do have the ability to address some of our most pressing needs. We don't have the amounts available to address all of them at once. However, we would like to address 2 key areas, one being literacy in our youngest grades from pre-K to grades 3, and the other being to strengthen our culture and climate at the high school. As you can see here, there are 2 full-time equivalent positions at the high school. These are positions that have been cut in the past that we would like to restore. One is the phys ed position, and the other is foreign language. The position at Barton was also a position that was not filled due to a leave of absence, and we would like to restore that position as well. The next one seems to have been an interesting topic of discussion. Let me be clear that this is really a short-term solution to try and rebalance discipline and academics at Oxford High School. And we already have a part-time athletic director who teaches 4 sections. When talking with Mr. Wells and Mr. Nugent, this was certainly an option to bring in someone else to work with our neediest students. And we felt that we could absorb the 4 sections that he currently teaches. Yes, it would be disingenuous to say that there were a lot of folks that fit the application requirements. However, we did have someone specific in mind, and certainly we fulfilled our obligation as an employer to advertise for the position. Again, this is a critical position. We feel this building, when it opened, had a dean of students. So, again, this is basically to backfill a position that we have not had, along with many others that this Oxford High School had in 2002 that over the years we have had to do without. Certainly, we would expect that by having this position, we would be able to improve all aspects of student life here at Oxford High School. Coupled with that is an in-school suspension coordinator. Again, given the fact that we are a comprehensive public high school, we do have some students who, for whatever the reason, are not as motivated as others. And this is a necessary component to manage those students, to hopefully put them back on track. The next one is the special ed team chair. We are desperately in need of another team chair. The complexity of our caseloads and the numbers certainly warrant this. The special ed teacher would be to manage some of our most medically fragile students, and would also give us an opportunity to perhaps tuition in other students from other districts, which we already currently do in some of our buildings. That position would probably be either at Barton or at the middle school, depending upon where we we move folks. The last two, if you notice, are both .5s, and we had a lot of folks discuss why couldn't that be one complete person that would cover both buildings. But certainly, the experts in literacy say that you really have to give the extra work in the morning, when the kids are fresh, before lunch, before they get out on the playground. So our goal is to have an additional literacy coach at each building to work with our neediest students. We have the data. We know which students are at risk, coupled with the additional help for our students that need the most direct instruction. We are also going to reach out to every parent of a newborn, toddler, young child before they come to us at age 4 or 5 to make sure that they understand what is required of parents today to give their child the very strongest base to begin their education. And certainly to spend 20 minutes a day with kids when they're young, to read to them, to play with them, to sing with them, obviously prepares these students, and we have seen it firsthand, how well our students do when they have that background and base, and how poorly they do if they don't. So that is the complete list. Again, some of these are old positions that are being restored, but I really want the discussion to center around all of them so that we know where we are going to try and improve first. And we also know that we have other needs in all of our buildings. But to begin with, these are the two areas that we feel must be addressed immediately to make sure that we provide the best education for our students. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Mrs. Ennis.
Thank you. Well, first, I have to say this is long-awaited news. So kudos to our superintendent, our business manager, and past school committees for allowing these hires to happen. I'm interested, Mr. Chairman, in hearing some more information on these positions through you to Mr. Himmelberger. Which language at the high school? Would it be French or Spanish?
The particular position is going to be both. We're fortunate enough that we did lay off a teacher last year,
Yeah.
and by contract has the first right to recall. And this particular teacher is certified in both French and Spanish. So it will give Mr. Wells and Mr. Nugent some flexibility as to how they schedule based upon student need.
And if I could continue the position at Barton, Mr. Chairman, what grade?
Third grade. That was due to a leave of absence that we did not fill last year. And obviously, we would like to bring the class sizes back down a little bit to backfill that position, which we had cut. Last year was, as everyone knows, the most difficult budgeting year. We just didn't have the money. And due to a variety of factors, we do have a bit of breathing room now as we go into fiscal 13.
And one last thing, if we could have a rundown of the salaries, I would like to know what these positions are going to, the range they're going to be.
I would expect that I would have those exact, if this is approved, that we would be able to make the official hires and appointments and have the exact dollars available at the next meeting.
And you said this special ed teacher to be determined is possibly Barton, is that what you said?
Right now, we have a teacher at Barton. We have a room at the middle school, so we're not quite sure if we'll take the teacher at Barton and move that teacher or leave the teacher and put the new teacher at the middle school. But it certainly is an opportunity for us to maybe realize some additional revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Ravelli.
The Barton, what other class sizes now, and what will that come down to? What are we anticipating?
I believe they moved up to about 25, 26
In third grade?
in third grade. And so obviously with 7 sections, you could bring that down by a little over 3. And again, as you know, making up the class rosters every year, sometimes there's 22 that are more difficult than 26, depending upon
Oh, yes.
the makeup, but I leave that to the principals and the staff to work those out.
The next one, the Dean of Students, I guess my concern is that, given the numbers at the middle school and given the numbers at the high school, I don't know where we warrant having another administrator. I guess that's one of my concerns. And he was teaching classes.
Yes,
And how is that absorbed? So we have, my assumption is that teachers have one period free and duty-free period for whatever. So, I mean, the classes, are we losing 4 classes? The 4 sessions that he was,
no, let me try and explain, and I'll ask for Mr. Wells to back me up if I misspeak.
Mr. Wells, can you come to the table, please?
Currently, our athletic director is part-time, teaches 4 classes, and has a tremendous amount of responsibilities to try and balance all of the sports that we do have. By virtue of having a retired teacher manage our VHS, our virtual high school, that frees up another teaching position, another class position.
I'm not following that. What, there's a
Virtual high school, and
Okay.
again, Mr. Wells, feel free to jump in when I misspeak, if I ever do.
So we found somebody to teach virtual high school for nothing?
No,
No.
no, but it's a retired teacher, therefore, that teacher would ordinarily not teach a section
I'm confused.
in order to manage
I'm not
virtual high
following.
school.
I'm not following.
In summary,
In summary.
first and foremost, out of the 13 schools in the Southern Worcester County League, I believe there are 3 full-time athletic directors where that's their sole job, is to be athletic director. As an athletic director, and I think some of you are aware, there's an awful lot of meetings that go on. So I'm just giving a little background. So they're out of the building a decent amount of time. Our athletic director teaches 4 psychology classes. When you do scheduling at the high school, you have to have enough numbers to put in seats to justify a class. So there were classes this year that we are getting ready to have for next year that didn't have enough bodies in them in the English department. So consequently, we have 2 current events and 2 conspiracy classes that will be in the English department rather than the history department. Psychology comes under the history department. Consequently, those psychology classes will be absorbed by the teachers in the history department because we shifted the conspiracy theory and current events to the English department. That, coupled with the fact that a teacher that recently retired is going to teach virtual high school, which is one class per semester. So theoretically, it's 2 college courses. That's how virtual high school works. And that will also, which in the past, that's been a teacher that's been on staff, and consequently, they had that period off. So teachers teach 5 classes. It was an English teacher that had virtual high school, which means that that teacher taught only 4 classes. So now, because this teacher's going to do it part-time, we have 5 classes now. Is that confusingly clear?
Anybody else want to?
No, I don't understand either.
I don't understand.
So in other words,
that.
teachers teach 5 classes.
Yes. Got that one.
Okay. The English teacher that taught
The
virtual high school only taught 4 high school classes where they actually had students in front of them. Their virtual high school class was the other class. Okay?
Follow
So
that.
basically, there's another can I,
Go right ahead.
so there's another position. There's a virtual high school position, and it's only 2 classes, I understand that, but that's another position.
No,
Already exists.
It already exists.
There's a new hire for that.
Right. That's what I'm guessing.
Right.
So,
Right.
okay, so you're filling virtual high school, this ex-retired teacher is gonna teach 2 sections of virtual high school?
Correct.
Right, but isn't
That
that?
is correct.
Isn't
Okay.
that a new position?
Freeing up a section.
But that's a new position as well,
But
though.
that's a new position as well.
That's
No.
a new hire.
No, it's a point.
No, it's not a new position.
If the teacher retired, then we're hiring back.
Where did the,
Yeah, what did that?
where did the 2 sessions come from then? They're teaching 2 sessions of virtual high school.
Right. If they were.
Which other
if-
people were teaching, so they are a new
No,
person.
no.
I'm not following.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it frees up one more section.
It does, but
Okay, but the point being is, on this list here, you're also bringing back a teacher for 2 classes. For a 2-fifths, is it 2-fifths?
No, just to manage the VHS,
Just to manage it.
right,
So it's not a teaching position.
not a teaching position.
Would it be a stipend position?
That's exactly what it is.
So it's a stipend position. So
Yes.
it is another position. It's a
Yes.
stipend position.
Yes, it is.
Where was I?
All right, that's, okay. And where were we, Mrs. Ravelli, you still have the floor?
So that covers 2 classes. What about the other 2?
we shifted. I had mentioned that you have, at the high school level, you offer X number of courses. You need to get enough students to be seated in the seats. But you don't know with elective courses, how many students are going to take what elective courses.
Right.
2 of the courses that we had, current events and conspiracy theory, okay, are being moved to the English department.
So were these the classes that the athletic director was teaching?
He was teaching psychology. So by shifting,
I'm confused. By shifting those to.
so those classes were in the history department. The athletic director was teaching those,
The athletic director was teaching those.
not those, I'm sorry, psychology.
He was teaching psychology.
Correct.
Who's going to be teaching psychology? I
So
guess?
those classes, the teachers themselves, you would like names?
I would like to know.
The history department will continue to do that. So those 2
The
classes,
history teacher is going to be teaching psychology.
that is correct.
Okay.
Exactly where it was. And the reason that it is freed up is because the conspiracy theory 2 sections, as well as,
Is now under English.
you got it. That is accurate.
I still don't understand how you fill 4. Am I the only one?
No,
I-
you're not.
I guess.
I get 2. I
the
found 2
question-
now.
The question for
I
me
found
is,
2 classes are covered.
you said that you're getting rid of classes for under enrollment. Are you getting rid of 2 classes due to under enrollment?
Oh, that might be the case.
Out of the 2, 4, 6 sections, 2 would be under-enrolled.
Two
So then
section-
they
two
will be no longer.
2
The
sections of,
Current events and conspiracy. 2 sections are going to the English department in current events and 2. So rather than 3 and 3,
so
there's
1 and
2
1.
and 2.
So we're still offering that class,
Correct, but we're 1 section short on each.
one section shorter in each.
Correct.
So in your average class, in your class size 25 max class size, pretty much, average class size?
When you look at an elective, it's difficult to say, but we like to try to get a minimum of 12,
What's the max?
30.
30? Teacher average 25?
Sometimes psychology has been right around there.
All right, I'll come back to that. Mrs. Ravelli still has the floor, I'm sorry. All right,
No, that's okay, if it can help me to understand. I think I still lost 2 classes, but that's okay. I found 2, so I'm halfway there. I guess it's just hard for me to wrap my head around how we're not going to be increasing class sizes for the students that were taking these classes that the athletic director once taught. But what you're saying is, it's not.
That is correct.
But, what I said initially still stands. I really think that with an addition of an in-school suspension coordinator, I think that helps. We all know that there are some difficulties and difficult times at the high school, and it makes sense to have somebody to cover that room who's consistent, who can get to know the repeat offenders, and to help them get back into the classes. So that makes a lot of sense to me, but adding yet another disciplinarian, I think, with the numbers, it just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so as we move down, special education team chair, we already have 2, correct?
We actually have 2.5,
We have 2.5.
right?
And our numbers did not go up. We just went through our presentations. Our numbers for special ed students have not gone up.
The complexity of the kids that we are dealing with
Uh,
makes it,
I understand that firsthand.
right, I know, makes it an impossibility for sometimes to get us all the way around all of the regulations. And when I ask the folks that are nearest to it, this can potentially, as you well know, can save us a lot of money down the road if we can have that third team chair and therefore a
Well,
second.
3.5 then.
Well, the way we would
0.5
split
now.
it, the way we would split it between team chairs and psychologists, because right now we have only 1.5 psychologists and 2.5 team chairs. We need to strike a better balance in order for us to manage our own special education, and that would be by having 3 and 2. 3 team chairs and 2 full-time.
Okay, so this special ed team chair position really is,
It could be a .5 and a .5.
0.5 and a
It depends,
0.5.
yeah. And it will, a lot of factors, as you know, go into that, how many per building.
believe it or not, that makes more sense, now that you explain it that way, because having 1 per school, to me,
Right.
does not make sense even
Nor
with the
will we,
complexity.
yes.
But that does.
It would probably roll out to 3 team chairs, 2 psychologists.
That's what we're
3.0
anticipating.
and 2.0, right.
My overall concern, just overall in looking at this,
I know.
what, you know what my concern's
I
going to
do
be?
know what your concern is.
My concern is that, in the middle school, last year, pretty much,
Mhm.
especially for 7th and 8th graders in the middle school, there is no music unless they, skip a
Schedule
class
it,
and make
yeah.
up. There is no art, there is no keyboarding, there is no language, there is no anything but reading, math, and science. And I just have to say that, this is where we lose kids. We lose kids in 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th grade. Yes,
couldn't
we lose
agree-
them, I'm sure, in 9th, too.
I couldn't agree more.
And I guess I'm disappointed that not one of these positions we're looking
Is
to
a middle
add to
school
the middle
position.
school.
I couldn't agree with you more. And if we can, if I, along with many others, can do a good job of educating the town as to what our true needs are, then it would be our goal to make the middle school first on the agenda to bring back exactly those positions, because they are critical. And we know it, but now we have to convince everybody else. But that's the goal for next year.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? Ms. Hoshko?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wells, you were stating with having the Dean of Students, Athletic Director, with the athletic directors mostly out of the building an awful lot with, various things being with that position. So for him to take over Dean of Students and just Athletic Director, how often is he going to be out of the building? If this should be in my opinion, somebody that's going to be here 5 days a week, how often?
See, essentially, what is happening is the position itself remains in the union, so it's a teaching, he remains on the step of a teacher, so it's as a dean of students, it's not in the administrative unit. So consequently, I mean, the salary does not change one iota. So what happens is, because he has a couple meetings minimum a month, it's not like he's out every single week. That's not the case. I don't want to mislead you and say that he's out a lot in terms of every single week. That's absolutely not the case. But there are weeks where he'll be out, he could be out a couple consecutive days, but I would say on the average, 2 to 3 times a month is when he's out of the building for MIAA or Southern Worcester County meetings.
I do have to agree with Mrs. Ravelli. I do have concerns that the class sizes, we're looking to hire back, a foreign language teacher. The class sizes are going to have to be absorbed with these 4 other classes, whether, the English department, the history teachers are going to take on more work. Go ahead.
Just a quick comment, no different than at the younger grades that we talked about. You can teach 30 motivated students, sometimes far easier than you can teach 15 who are not as motivated. And I think the goal is to really reach out to our student population that, for whatever the reason, has struggled with academics and behaviors and the challenges of being a teenager now, and trying to get them to see how they can improve their own studies. And I think by doing that, that almost takes care of the class size by itself. And I firmly believe that if we can get our students to improve, especially the ones that require a lot of time and energy, to sit in class and be a part of class and enjoy being a high school student, that we should be able to be far ahead at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. My other question, and I guess it would be you, also, Mr. Superintendent, for the literacy coaches at Barton and Chapey, will this be for all of the students, not just Title I? This is,
The plan is to use the data that we have from DIBELS, from MAP, from MCAS, and take the students that are furthest behind. And in some cases, we have 5-year-olds coming to us in kindergarten that are already 18 to 24 months behind. So our literacy plan is to reach out to the students that are furthest behind. So these halftime folks at each building would be working with the most at risk, the furthest behind students, because a lot of our other students, we feel we have the improvements in place and the staff in place to support them. But we really want to address the ones that are furthest behind, because as we see, as they go through their career here, if they can't read, then they can't access the curriculum. They tend to be not as able to adapt to the rigors that come their way. So I think it's important for us to get all of our 3rd graders reading at grade level, fluent, so that they can be proficient on MCAS. And that's a long way to go to get there, and we have a challenge there. We're also going to make sure that we emphasize reading, we emphasize writing and fluency at the early ages, especially in the first half of the day, so that we can make the necessary gains so that these students have the base they need to be successful.
thank you.
What else? I have a couple of thoughts as well, too. Looking at this, and I think board members asked some wonderful questions. I was able to fill in a lot of my blanks. But I do have a couple concerns, I guess, actually, in the one that comes up to middle school and the foreign language program. And one of the first things that popped in my mind when I looked at these requests, who they're coming from, said, okay, there's nothing from the middle school.
Mhm.
So my next question to you, Superintendent, is, was this list generated by yourself, Mr. Matthau, or was it inclusive of your administrative council?
This list that you have in front of you was generated through many meetings with the entire administrative team. And those two areas of concern were universal and consistent at all of the meetings. And to Mrs. Ravelli's point, absolutely, we are challenged at the middle school to add more arts, to add more electives, and hopefully we can get there. You know, we start the budget process, Mr. Matthews starts back at it November, December, and we're going to put those requests in front of the community so that everybody understands that it's a challenge to educate preschool through grade 12. And it's one that is not easily met, but we're going to have to find the proper balance of resources and commitment so that we can add back in key elements, because what will ultimately happen is then the high school withers because you don't have the continuity of the unified arts. You don't have someone that's excited about music when they're young and doesn't get to play it as often. Someone that is great and loves to stay in school because they can be up on stage, or they can take and express themselves through creative arts. And so if we don't have that, then it becomes very problematic as to how to improve in grades 9 through 12. So that will be, already, we can see that will be a top priority for our next budget cycle.
Going down through the list, and I just want to chime in a little bit on the Dean of Students Athletic Director and the in-school suspension coordinator. And it's already been brought to our attention, am I correct, that the Dean of Students Athletic Director will incur no additional costs? It's already a budget item. It's a budget that we're creating a new position, but are we taking the old positions off the books? But you're not gonna come back to us and say, hey, I just lost a psych teacher last year, I need another psych teacher.
Correct.
So that position's now gone.
That is
If
correct.
we go this route,
That is correct.
thank you for that
And
clarification.
again, I want to reiterate that it's still in the teacher's contract.
Yes.
So in terms of any additional monies, that's not, that's inaccurate.
Okay. The second one is the in-school suspension coordinator, and that will not be a teacher, correct?
That is correct. It will not be a teacher.
And
That
so,
would be an instructional aide or a teacher assistant, someone to monitor the in-school suspension room.
someone that basically that is probably maybe about a third to half of what a teacher would cost you? Maybe about half a full-time teacher, a third of a seasoned teacher?
Ballpark figure?
Ballpark figures.
Right, yes.
Yeah. You know, so as I looked at that one, the old adage Massachusetts went through it, the flagman versus policeman. You know, with it, that if you're gonna hire like someone like an in-school suspension coordinator, as opposed to call him a flagman out there if he's driving down the road and they're directing signs with the flag, or as opposed to hiring a full-time officer to sit in there and to monitor the room. You know, I think it's incredible cost savings and it's very effective, but I think how you set it up here will make it effective with the dean of students, Someone that would be a visible presence and probably not immediately impact every classroom, but a tool for the educators to use to get the disruptive students out of their room. To be able to, instead of someone saying, hey, look, this kid's not doing his work, he got his head down, call the office and yourself and Mr. Nugent have to go up there and deal with it.
That's accurate.
Would it be, I mean, I'm in education myself, and you know what, we always preach classroom management. And then it comes to a point that you need a little more support system, and if they know there's someone out there that is gonna be knocking on the door, coming in, and the enforcer right away, I think that you may see a lot of, and I'm sure that's why you put it in, the change of behavior, the positive changes.
Absolutely. And that coupled with the fact that we're moving guidance right next door to that as well. So the whole administrative suite will be in this hallway. So it'll be idealistic.
I believe this may also help your, how do you think it'll impact your graduation rate versus suspension rate?
Well, I think that it's going to provide us an opportunity to pay more attention to that. I would hope that it would increase. Again, you couple that with the grant that we just received, the dropout prevention grant from DESE, I think that it's going to, it certainly should decrease the number of dropouts because of the ability to work with them immediately.
And with the intervention piece, we'll probably cut down suspensions as well, you believe?
There's no question about that, because guidance will be right next door. I'll be meeting with them the first day they get back, and every single day they will go through, and they will meet with any of their students that are in the in-school suspension room on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you. And the second one, with the two positions, I heard foreign language, and maybe I missed it, the second position that's being at the high
That
school,
would be the girls' phys ed.
girls phys
We
ed,
cut last year due to budget.
which you cut last year. So you currently have one phys ed teacher now?
That is correct.
So there's no female phys ed teacher, no, I don't know if there's, I can remember back, like locker room,
We had a locker room attendant,
You had an
female
attendant.
locker room attendant that would be able to get the kids up to the gym, to the teacher, and then couldn't participate in the phys ed class, but then would go down to make sure all the kids got changed, the females got changed. Because of the DESE empowering principals to give credit for student athletes that participate in
Yeah.
sports, that's what we use as an opportunity. It'd be nice to be able to have that position back.
yeah, I think that's a,
So we would only, I mean, in all reality, because I'm old, when I was in high school, and I think there's other people here, there were 6 physical education teachers at Oxford High School. In that building next door, there were 6. This year, we went through the entire year with 1. It would be nice to have the second one back.
I agree. Okay. Thank you, and I believe that's all I have. Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Wells, go ahead.
If I might add, with that second one coming back, it's my hopes and aspirations as we've continued to change and open up the curriculum, to have one of the health and PE people be trained as a trainer to hopefully teach CPR first aid as another elective course for some of our students to be able to take and to leave school with their Red Cross cards in both.
Which years ago, that was pretty standard practice, wasn't it? Everyone left. It was the goal of the curriculum, and,
Yes.
okay, that's good. Very good. In today's time to be able to CPR training is wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion to accept the following positions as requested.
So moved.
Motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Second.
I will second it. And further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions?
No.
No.
Motion passes 3 in affirmative and 2 negatives. Thank you, gentlemen. Very important, and thank you all board members for your questions and comments. Okay, Mr. Superintendent, discussion of FY '13 budget, and FY '12 closeout. We did have a handout on this.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to turn that over to Mr. Matthew, who is far more familiar these days with the numbers than I ever will be. And you have all that information in front of you.
This is double-sided, correct?
Yes, there's a couple of pages dealing with FY '12. I'd like to deal with FY '13 if we could first. I think that was the first memo. The reline says FY '13 budget, and it starts at the annual town meeting of May 2nd, 2012.
Single page.
Single page, nothing on the
Single
back.
page,
It has the town crest up top, okay?
FY '13.
As everyone, I'm sure, is aware, the budget did pass at the May 2nd meeting, annual town meeting. The school operating budget of $14,948,356. Obviously, you just had discussion about some of the new positions that were proposed as part of that budget. And we have essentially finalized all of our contracts, or at least can have some certainty about the percentage increases for next year. Based on that, and based on the fact that July 1st is coming up rapidly, I would ask the school committee to vote to open the FY13 budget. At the July meeting, I will bring in new books, or books for the new members, updates for the previous members of the FY13 budget, reflecting all of the new personnel, new assignments, finalized contracts, et cetera. At that time, I would ask the school committee to vote and have a discussion about how it wants to utilize budget control. I talk about it in the memo here. Mrs. Ennis and Mrs. Ravelli, you're certainly aware that in the past, and certainly Mrs. Ennis for many years, the budget has been broken down by function code, as you see in my FY12 reports. And that has been the level of budget control. That has worked well, I think. However, with two members of the new board having been previously members of the Board of Selectmen, on the town side, most departments budget for salaries and expenses and have just those two items as controls. So I thought it would be an interesting discussion for school committee to talk, again, over the summer, not necessarily this evening, about what level of budget controls I would like to set up going forward, whether it stays with the function codes or looks to do just salaries and expenses across the district. I think it will be an interesting discussion, at least for number geeks like me. So tonight, in terms of FY13, all I would do is ask the committee to vote to approve the opening of the budget. We will have certainly some expenditures and encumbrances before the July 16th meeting, but at the July 16th meeting, we can finalize the budget control.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to open the budget for FY13.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Do we have a discussion?
Okay, any discussion, Ms. Ennis?
Where do I want to go with this? I know I've got to think. In the past, we've done our budget meeting as the second meeting in the month. Can we hold to that for this committee, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Because we could focus all of our questions on that meeting. And as far as, I'll start off the conversation, we can continue for the summer if you'd like. With the function codes, I know our numbers geek would probably like it to be streamlined, more streamlined, but I have to tell you, maybe it's just me, I like all the numbers, so
If I may,
it's up to him.
Go ahead, go right ahead.
I would not intend on changing the reporting to the committee.
Oh,
I would intend to still report by function code.
who would see it then this way?
I would give you an additional report, simply salaries and expenses. A couple of
okay.
lines, maybe even on that one
Oh,
report,
okay.
as a budget control
All
item.
right. Something to ponder.
Addition too.
Yes, exactly.
I think what would help us, where a lot of us see reports, see some different numbers come through, if you give us a sampling of each way, what it would look at, and we can look at it and say,
Perfect.
okay, where Mrs. Ennis is a numbers person, other people like myself like to see, okay, nice and big and bold, here it is, and this is what's included in it, this works. And other people work different ways, they have different minds towards it. So if you could, at your leisure, just give us a sampling what it may look
What
like.
I'll do is, when I prepare the July update, since there's only one meeting in July, I'll prepare both formats. And that way you can see exactly what it would look like.
Excellent. Great idea, thank you. Very good, thank you for that.
That's all I have.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
All those in favor of opening that FY13 budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention? Being none, motion passes 5 in the affirmative. Thank you. Anything else, sir?
Yes, the FY12 budget and closing. This is the couple of documents that were back-to-back, stapled together, I believe, with 2 memos from me and a memo from Mr. Trahan and Mr. Wells. As we've been talking about, since last year, coming into this year, it looked to be the most challenging of financial years that we've had, and in many respects it was. However, we had some actual good news and some breaks during the year. And I'm happy to be able to report that in June, not just in October, November, and February, when things are projected and look like. But I'm happy to say, on June 25th, 2012, at the end of the fiscal year, we're closing the year in very positive shape. We project to have around $180,000 at the end of the year, which is fantastic. The reason for that number, 50,000 approximately, comes from savings in heating, since we had such a mild winter. And we had approximately $100,000 in savings in special education expenses. As a result, we do have the availability to do some things that we would like to do. As discussed with the previous school committee at its April meeting, the first priority I had for end-of-the-year money was paying off the lighting project here at the high school. And that $65,000 being shifted over in the FY13 budget from expenses, utilities, to salaries, was talked about in the FY13 positions that you just approved. Additionally, I talked about the need for building maintenance equipment. And one of the memos details exactly what we're looking to purchase in terms of building maintenance equipment. The title on it is End-of-Year Expenditure Priority List. And it has three different levels of expenditures of different items that we need, such as replacing the air conditioning units at the Chafee School, such as replacing floor care machines at almost all of the schools, if we can. A lot of the equipment that we utilize right now is dated. It's old, it's past its useful life, and it's, in some cases, becoming expensive to keep the repairs up and keep it operating. Given where we stand with FY12, I think it would be prudent to invest the money in these areas so that we can improve the efficiency, especially of our custodial staff that has been reduced in numbers greatly over the last couple of years and is operating at its bare minimum level of staffing currently. As we went through, or as I went through and finalized the numbers that you see before you, in addition to those two levels of priorities, we were fortunate in terms of the numbers coming out and have a sum available that could be utilized to improve the high school and the media center here at the library and the media center here at the high school. It's a perfect fit for a one-time source of revenue. This one-time expenditure would be a perfect fit for that. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions. There's a lot of information in here and a lot of information in the memos. What I'm looking for is approval of the expenditure plans and approval of the budget transfers that will be necessary to close out the year.
I'll take questions first. Mrs. Ennis, you have the floor.
On the description and function page, substitutes, how did we go over by 43,000?
That is a case of long-term substitutes being budgeted within the regular salary account, but needing to be broken out in terms of actual classification to the substitutes, because they were truly long-term substitutes as opposed to regular teachers.
So this would be, for instance, if a teacher was out on maternity or something?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Mr. Mathau, this one caught my attention. The school committee with 13,000 over, primary reason lease for new central office.
Mm-hmm.
How does the impact of losing Signey Street have on the budget as well? I know there was a shift in that, and I was not on board, so I'm not aware of all that. But I caught on myself, okay, we're paying rent, but what do we make it up on the other side?
Yeah, when we presented the FY13 budget, we did detail all of that. And the increased cost was around, bear with me, about $12,000 to $13,000 total between the things that we were able to take out of the budget and the actual cost of the lease for Maple Road. The when the budget was prepared, the FY12 budget was prepared originally, we were, and that would be almost 18 months ago at this point, we were unsure as the actual timing of when we were going to be into 4 Maple Road. We knew that the money had been appropriated, but we did not know exactly when the project was going to finalize. Thus, we didn't know exactly when the lease payments were going to hit. So we didn't want to include extra money until we knew that we actually absolutely had to. So that's the reason for that overture. We do have the money appropriately budgeted for FY13.
Roughly, and you may not have the figure on top of your head, and you can get it to me later, how much more does it cost us a month to operate from Maple Street from the old building?
It's about $1,000.
About $1,000 more for the state-of-the-art facility? Okay. All right, and so I might have something else. I've got one more. As I'm looking up, anyone else, any other questions for Mr. Mathau? I did have something else in here, I thought. Okay. And so just to get this right, this is where you're over, there's your overtures, and on page 3 is what you want to, I'm sorry, page 2, the priority list, is what you want to buy?
That is correct. In addition to what's listed on the third page.
So this is what we owe. So you have the transfer for the, and just make this clear. Page 1 is what we owe, right? The outstanding money, this is what we owe. Okay? This is what we need in terms of capital. And the third page is, and then, this is from the NEASC, right, the NEASC accreditation, basically saying that we've got to upgrade the media center here in the library. And you're looking to basically go 25 computers, 6 switches, 30 iPads, cases, LCD projection and stand, and 17,000 books and other resources, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions for him? At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the transfer of monies for the 3 areas that were discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Being none? Go ahead, sir.
I'd like the motion to also include the ability to balance at the end of the year as needed.
I'll amend that motion, yes. to
Amend it to
include
that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification, that there may be a penny or two off. It comes through.
You never know.
You never know what happens, but. to
I've
amend
even
that.
made a mistake once before.
No, very good. Thank you, it's been amended, thank you. And moved and seconded, and all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, opposed, abstentions? None, motion passes 5 in affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir, for your hard work on that. Okay. School physician approval, and we're still waiting on that. We're holding that one. And the SEIU contract signing. Have that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I believe everyone has signed the clerical to finalize that contract, and that is a new unit with the SEIU. Apparently, the SEIU has undergone a reallocation of resources, so we will have a new field representative representing the instructional aids unit and the cafeteria custodial unit. And once we have that person in place, we can dot all of the Ts on those last 2 MOAs, which are voted in principle, and we're just waiting for the final 2 agreements. So we really have our OEA contract finalized, a 3-year contract. We have our clerical contract finalized, which runs through FY14, and the cafeteria custodial, as well as the instructional aids contracts, run through June 30th of 2013. So obviously, they'll be looking to reopen sometime in the fall, once we meet the new representatives.
Thank you. Correspondence? None? Okay, information proposal, subcommittees, I only have one. I know I said I'd have the, for tonight, I still have a couple members that I want to get their input on what they would like for subcommittees, and I will speak to them privately before those subcommittees are named, so I'll hold that to the 16th, and I'll put that on my to-do list. And Zach, you're up.
Hi. Alright, do I need your mic? No.
Oh, yes, definitely.
You speak pretty
I
well.
don't know.
We do.
Alright.
Definitely.
Not much to really report on. It's summertime, so we're all either working or getting sunburns. Yeah. So, only a couple things. Student council this week is doing its lock-in, which is like a farewell to all the seniors that were on the council and everything. That's on Friday. And then the day after that is our cookout at Mrs. Spitz's house, our advisor. And we're planning everything for next year and how we're going to spruce up the school. So that's going to be fun. For the baseball team, they are the Division III district champions, but they lost their first state game against Everett. But still, it's a pretty big deal. And last week, I had the honor of going with 4 other students to boys state or girls state. It was me, Mike Elliott, Cindy Vo, Anissa White, and Lisa Udiciani. And it was really good. We all learned about government. I took an elective course on economics. It was really cool. It was a great time. The American Legion and the ROTC here covered most of it, all of it, actually. So it was free for all of us. It was a really good time. So, yeah, that's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your always enlightening report. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I really don't have much else to add. I do want to thank the committee and certainly look forward to working with the committee as we go through next year to address all of the needs in the district. And I again thank the town for the FY13 budget and look forward to working to advocate for our students for the FY14 budget, which will start soon enough.
Thank you. Mr. Mathon, anything further?
Nothing further this evening.
Wonderful, thank you for the information this evening. School committee members, Mrs. Gosha.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker.
I have no comments.
Thank you. Mrs. Ravelli.
Oh, I had the pleasure of going to the 8th grade, what do we want to call that day?
Recognition Day.
Recognition Day. And it was nice to hear all the jangling walking by of all of the children earning their medals and honors. So, nice afternoon for all of us.
Wonderful.
Nice way to end the year. Nothing else.
Thank you. Mrs. Ennis.
Just a couple of things. I think that, as Mrs. Ravelli has kind of alluded to, that we've spent an awful lot of money on Oxford High tonight. And I think that it should be known that, as far as for myself, I'll be watching the way that that money goes. And I think that we have to bear in mind when we start our budget talks that we have to focus on the middle school. Some of the focus has got to go there. And I know how the superintendent feels about that. I would like, if we could, have some updates of, as the school year starts, as it continues through, if we could hear from our superintendent to let us know what is the wish list for the middle school, so we can kind of have a heads up before our summer meeting. You know, we kind of know what they're looking for and how things are going with the admin council. I also went to the 8th grade recognition, and it was a very nice morning. I enjoyed with Mrs. Ravelli. We were honored by allowing to pass out all of the certificates, and that was great. And the ROTC Awards dinner was one. That's another one I have to say. There's like 3 or 4 of my favorites, and ROTC is another one of my favorites when they give out the awards. It was nice that some of the former colleagues from the school committee were there. And I think that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do want to just follow up as well, too. You attend so many things at the end of the year. Some you can, some you can't due to your work schedules. I did attend a few. I missed some, and I wish I did. But it's nice to hear from the members the wonderful things that happen at those. And I did attend the ROTC one, and it was eye-opening to me the first time that I've been to that, and what a first-class operation. And thanks to their CO and the entire staff there. Secondly, in our packets this week, we received, talk about spending money, from the town clerk, Lori Kelly, about special town meeting schedule for October 3rd.
I didn't get that.
Didn't get one, okay. Well, basically, You got one, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe I got it Friday.
You got it Friday, I think
Yeah.
I did too. At the meeting on June 5th, the selectmen opened a special town meeting warrant, and the town meeting warrant will close on Tuesday, October 28th. And notoriously, we get someone, it's different boards will come up with 11th hour requests, things like that. To the superintendent, if you are planning on taking advantage of this, if you have something to come forward, if you please give us an early heads up on this, that the warrant,
August 28th
it closes on the
of
28th
August.
of August,
Oh.
yes. I don't want to get it on August 26th at our meeting, say, oh, by the way, we need this voted tonight. I'd appreciate maybe a heads up if you have anything next 2 weeks before our next meeting, that we can talk about it here, or a simple note, letter, email, something out to the committee saying, this is what I'm looking at, so we can get in there and talk to you. Mrs. Ennis, go ahead.
What was the town meeting date?
Town meeting is on Wednesday, October 3rd.
Thank you. High school or middle?
High school.
Okay,
high school.
thank you.
So that's, so everyone knows that the meeting, the warrant is open, and if there's anything, talk to the superintendent on that, but so we know as well. Our last meeting, unfortunately, Mr. Barone could not be here for extenuating circumstances. I do understand that, and I asked the superintendent at a future meeting over the summer to please bring him in so he can explain his school improvement plan. We've accepted it, but it's nice to hear from one of the person that architected that.
On July 16th. next
Thank you,
meeting.
July 16th, very good. And let me make sure I have everything here. That's all I have as well. That's all I have as well. Any further business? At this stage, I will open up the floor for questions and comments. If you come forward, ma'am, yes. Please state your name for the record. Ms. Minogue.
I just have a question. I'm interested in finding out about possibly adding volleyball as a sport to the high school. There's a few towns around us that do have volleyball, but we don't. So the MIAA handbook states that a school team must be sponsored by the school committee, so I'm hoping for your support. And I'm also looking for maybe a little direction on how we would do that.
And if I'll answer. Well, first question, you're talking about boys, girls volleyball, or both? Where
Well, I
girls-
have a girl that's interested, but of course, both would be,
Where girls is a fall sport
yes.
and boys is a spring sport.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So, probably the first direction to Mr. Superintendent is to, talk to Mr. Doran and Mr. Wells at the high school and go ahead, sir.
Sure, I think what we'll do is have the athletic director and the principal, through their channel, see if it's gauge the level of interest, and as long as we have enough folks that want to participate, then we could move forward.
Okay. So is there, like, anything that can be done over the summer to start the ball rolling, to, I know it's a fall sport for girls, so it's probably a little too late to do it this year, but, to get it moving in that direction?
Yeah. The other piece of it would be budget, and that would go to school committees for their approval. We can certainly come back to the committee and do the research in terms of what the cost would be. And I would agree with you, the fall might be too early, but I can certainly take your name and contact information after the meeting, and I'll give you Mr. Wells and Mr. Dodorian's, and we can start moving.
Okay, sounds good.
Very good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else from the floor this evening? I will close the floor. Is there any further business in front of this board? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion being none, all vote, say aye.
Aye.
In favor, and we are adjourned. Thank you for coming out tonight.